In an age characterized by constant technological advancements in the pursuit of opportunities, many startups are being birthed. In contrast to developed economies that are advanced in this race, emerging markets comprising of low income and underdevelopment are assiduously aiming to participate in this change. How can startups leverage venture capital as a catalyst for boosting the economies they find themselves in? In this episode, Boris Lancheros elaborates on venture capital and how various traditional tech institutions can leverage this financial opportunity to expand the reach of their tech products. Also, he discusses the use of AI to enhance their capacity in today's tech landscape. Whether you're a techpreneur or curious about becoming one, Boris helps you in this episode to lay an important foundation as you progress on your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy today's episode. This episode is brought to you by Big Spark. Big Spark is the UK's fastest growing data solutions consultancy, translating your business needs into data architecture, strategy, and engineering. Together with their technical partners, they focus on swift and efficient business value delivery. Taking an innovative approach to every challenge, Big Spark is an agile team of over 100 world-class engineers and data scientists pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved with AI, data, software, cloud, and machine learning. To find out how Big Spark can ignite your data solution, visit us at www.bigspark.dev. Big Spark, igniting change through engineering. All right, then. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TechSurf podcast, where we navigate today's tech wave one electrifying conversation at a time. I am your host, Remy Kluche, and today I have my amazing co-host with me, McLean, to delve into a very interesting conversation that is very, very important. More importantly, I have an amazing guest, someone I met back in France. We're at Nantes, which is one of the cities in France, and he is into a very interesting domain that I believe will be both beneficial for techies and non-techies who are thinking about entering the entrepreneurial world. So without further ado, I will like you to just go ahead, So welcome, Boris, and I'd like you to introduce yourself in the shortest amount of time, your background, where you live, what you do in your own time. Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I mean, we can start just chatting about like what I've been doing all this time. And yeah, well, I'm Boris Lancheros. I'm from Colombia. I'm an industrial engineer back home. And then, yes, as you just said, we met in France, back in Nantes. I did a master in engineering, engineer generalist, how they call it there. And it was on the master specific in risk management. And after a couple of years, I did another master in finance, but now in Boston. And it gave me that chance to work where I am right now. And I'm living in New York City, working on BC and emerging markets specifically. And yeah, investing and learning about 40 different markets around the world. And here we are today.
Wow, that's nice. I like that. I like that. I like that. So you are an engineer. You come to France to study risk management. So I think you did industrial engineering, right? Industrial
Yeah,
engineering.
exactly.
You come and do a master's, to learn about risk management and everything. Then the next thing you move all the way from engineering into venture capital, and for that matter talking about emerging markets when people are maybe trying to go into the booming market. Tell us the process, like how did you get into the finance world? Was there a background? Was it your dad, your family? How did you get to the finance world, and why did you specifically choose VC?
Yeah, definitely. I would say like everything started back in France. I had the opportunity to that like risk management portion, and it was specifically like focused on engineering, but also on the financial world. And there is when I started like having some interest on like okay, what's happening into the finance, but finance is so wide, right? And at the end, like one of those courses were related to entrepreneurship, like okay, how I manage risk, but on like innovation, like technology. Tech companies like in the like yeah I mean, the startups in general. And then like COVID happened, and I had to get back home when I started working for startups itself, like doing consulting and financial analysis for those startups, and understanding first like okay how business model
Mhm.
works, how pitch works, how you find investors,
Right.
and you start being from the sell side, right? So you're trying to find those investors, you're trying to understand how to get that investment, how to like innovate or create those great business models. And after Boston is where I say, okay, it would be super cool to actually understand the other side, right? Like being the buy side. And it's okay, how these investors actually think to get into those startups. So I started to give that sense of, okay, I want to be in both sides. And during all my life, I want to understand like the whole ecosystem itself, how startups work from the beginning, but also how investors like invest in those startups, right?
Right.
And here's where the interest start like growing and growing over time until it gets to this point of okay how the full cycle works, right?
Right, right. Okay. Okay. So you finish school, or you finish Boston, right? And you had the opportunity to maybe go and work in some top firm, maybe a big four or something, to do the traditional finance. Then you choose VC. And when you choose VC, you go into a very high risk place, because we're talking about emerging markets, which are, relatively, low in their ability in terms of like capacity and all that. I believe that is what all. In fact, before I go ahead of myself, you tell us what emerging markets are for those who are listening who may not necessarily understand what an emerging market is. I'll let you go.
Completely, and I think that's a really really good question. And as you said, like maybe at the beginning, once you study and you start like getting to the finance world, you may think like, yeah, I might go to investment banking, I might go to
Right,
consulting, I might go to a big four. Like, why choosing like BC and why emerging markets, right?
right,
So I think like the definition behind it is like there's we can compare with two. So there's developed markets where are structured where the agents that are involved like in the same ecosystem are
right,
developed like by the same word. So let's say they're funds, they're accelerators, incubators, entrepreneurs, technologies adapted. So let's say like it's fully adapted to like the market itself. In emerging markets, there's a lot of opportunity where there's countries and like industries where innovation is applied. You know, you
mm,
have the opportunity like through venture capital to actually contribute to economic growth, right?
mm,
Like how like there's multiple like it's called about innovation, job creation, knowledge transfer, um, economic resilience, attraction for foreign investment. So let's say it's like a place where you can actually start developing from scratch. And I think that that gave you that opportunity of like, okay, we can actually create something new. We
all
can
right.
actually drive economic diversification, competitiveness, extend like the labor market. Like so there's a lot of like factors that come into a place against like a developed market that
Right.
gave you that opportunity to bring innovation into action, right?
Right, right. Okay. So for you or for most people who are VCs getting into emerging market, is because of the main factors are the opportunity to, start something, different, something new, working with the different environment as compared to a typically developed country where the structures may necessarily be there. You want to, get your hands dirty in code into the deep end of an economy where things are not structured, but then you're able to bring something, reasonable out of that. That makes sense. So do you have any experience with developed regions or developed markets? Have you worked with them? And if you have, can you give us some of like the main, like your experience working with emerging markets and developed regions? One of your main differences.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I think like that's like a very like critical question once you start like getting into the landscape of what's happening around, right? And I will develop it like in three key points. I would say like investment opportunities, like in emerging markets, you have like high growth potential, and of course it comes with higher risk and of course market volatility. But at the same time, like developed markets will tell you like, okay, we'll offer you a stability, but the markets might be saturated, right? There's a lot of competition. And if you think about it, like investment opportunities, like there are needs in emerging markets for financial and technological inclusions, healthcare innovation, agriculture, logistics, among others, right? So there's like a huge open like door to start like discovering. The other thing is risk factors. I would say I think like in emerging markets you will have like some regulatory uncertainties that can be challenging for those entrepreneurs, right? To adapt to a local legal framework, currency volatility, infrastructure gaps, political instability, competition itself. Like you need to actually be very innovative. Like you don't have to have innovation in your product to actually be different, right? So, but this also brings out like a lot of opportunity, like because you can create your own set of like strategic differentiation and long term growth to actually to like be that huge like an entrepreneur scale up like company. But in the same time, like in developed markets, you will have some sort of like stability. Let's say it that way, right? And finally, I would say market like dynamics where technology like maturity like in developing markets is more often like the people are more receptive to those or being adaptive to those technologies, so that allow like startups to like capitalize or like use that existing infrastructure or use the skill talent they already have to like start working even faster. I think that's like a good like opportunity where you're in a developed market, but at the same time when you're an emerging market, the market dynamic reflect like for example unique socioeconomic context. And I would like to give just an example here, like in some parts in Africa and Asia, like there's like unprecedented and their experience like urbanization, like a growing middle class, like tech savvy, like a job population that drives demand for solutions that are tailored to the local needs, right? So it's like everything you can do is like there's a lot of things you can
Hmm.
do, so it's a bunch of opportunities you can
Right,
create.
right. So I'm sure you've had to talk with a lot of young entrepreneurs, people who have great ideas. Like you said, the structures may not necessarily be there, but then innovation is still innovation is still something that um, entrepreneurs in emerging markets will want to champion or want to keep driving forward, and most of them will be in the early stage. Can you explain or give a bit of highlight a little bit the financing of early stage startups and the criteria the criteria that a VC will evaluate or use to evaluate the potency or the viability of these ideas or these startups?
Completely. And I think like I'll develop like the question in two. And I would say first like how to develop that like attractiveness and start like doing for those investments like deal flow. And I think like first of all you need to understand like unique challenge and opportunities like the local market has. And this is crucial because it will actually tell you like with your tech solution or with your business model solution to address like that specific pain point, right? And once you understand that, you have to start creating that business model. You need to clearly like articulate like how your solution generates value, the path to that monetization, like that potential growth trajectory, and start demonstrating traction. So I would like the order will be like, yeah, understand what's happening in your market, create a business model that actually generates value, and then you start like showing like real case like or real world like results,
Right,
because structure at the end is key. You have to like start like telling like the VC like, yeah, you have a user adoption, you have a
right,
revenue growth, you have partnerships that validate your concept, your
right,
idea,
right.
and it gives that evidence, let's call it that way, like where it helped the investor to start like creating first like trust, but also showing him like, yeah, this might here we might have like potential returns of your investment, right?
Right.
um yeah, I think what else is more important, I think this is like super catchy, but I mean everyone talks like you need like a good team, and everyone says that and it's you heard that before, but team expertise is key too, because it highly like like show like diversity and of skill sets,
Right.
of industry expertise. So
Right.
this is also very important, like to bring up like a very like diverse and fully skilled team that
Right.
can adapt. I would say like in emerging markets you need to be resilient,
Right.
so your company might need to navigate challenge that adapts to that market dynamics. And the only thing that's constant exchange, right? So, uh, yeah. And finally, I would say like communication. Like you need to have a very good communication. You need to show your value proposition, markets inside, your growth strategy. And I think that that would be like very important to for you to start like bringing that like attention for those like international investors.
Right, right. So I'm sure VC does not operate independent of the legal and the policy of these markets, right? Like the legal part and the policy restrictions of of countries. I believe VC is all in under that same jurisdiction, right? Like venture capital is bound by the laws of a country, if that makes sense, right? Okay, and I'm sure every country has its own laws. You understand me? The dicey nature of how the economics works in every country. How do you, as a VC, or how do VCs mostly, or how can VCs successfully navigate that together with the tech entrepreneurs? For example, I'm a tech entrepreneur who has a great idea to start a great tech innovation, something AI related, but then the country in question, let's give the example of uh, um, um, Italy when ChatGPT came out, and then they ban it. But then a tech entrepreneur is coming in with an idea to use ChatGPT to do something that is very phenomenal, and then is now trying to reach out to VC to invest in it. In terms of you as a person who is in VC, how do you navigate that? And also, how can tech entrepreneurs, navigate the legal and policy part of VC without getting themselves, or without burning cash or wasting their time on something that would not necessarily give the returns expected, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, a lot. Yeah, completely. And I think like there's a lot of concepts that will be super nice to start talking about, like AI in the VC world and in startups, but also like that government like policies of incentives like bring up like as that landscape or that like ecosystem to grow over time.
Right,
And first, like I would say, like talking about like government, there's like three major like incentives or things like governments can do to actually potentiate or create like those incentives to perform like that emerging market. And I will start with saying like there's a lot of government backed like initiatives like to promote that investment to or
right,
attract those venture
right,
capital funds to the
right,
emerging
right.
markets. And I'm talking about like tax breaks. They reduce like regulatory barriers so they can
Okay.
encourage like international investors to okay, why you don't come to my country? I'll give some kind of benefits and explore those local opportunities. I think that's also happening like emerging markets, but that's like something like government like could like start like getting into.
Mm,
So secondly will be the startup incubator and accelerators, because if you think about it, like government sponsored the startup incubators, like provide those vital resources to like nurture like those young businesses. Like because at the end, like these platforms not only offer like mentorship but also attract like international investors because they're gonna be like government backed. And the third one will be, and this is for me one of the most important, will be like education and skill development. Like governments will create those policies like promoting like educations in science, technology, engineering, mathematics fields where they are gonna create like some sort of a skill, like talent pool of professionals. And at the end, those like skill sets will be attractive for venture capital, like
right,
when they're like making sure like they're reliable workforce for tech startups, right?
right.
So like their skill sets are already like created for creating those companies. And I think like there's a very like good like discussion on AI right now, right? And I think like that's something super cool to talk about it and those tech companies.
Right.
And I don't know what you guys think, but like this is no longer like how AI could like eliminate my job or what I'm doing, but it's more like how can I actually work alongside
Mm,
AI? I
mm,
don't know your thoughts there.
mm. Well, literally, so for us, or for me specifically, I am a strong advocate for people being educated about AI instead of being afraid about AI. In the first episode, we had two people who had done their masters come on board to talk about AI, and the main goal was to be able to demystify some of the misconceptions about AI. Now, definitely AI, or as the definition of AI is to what? Replace human intelligence. So definitely, if something is coming to replace human intelligence, then there's a level of replacement going to go on one way or the other. However, just like every technological advancement that we've had in the past, first we used to have mobile phones that just had that LED screen. Then we moved to what, mobile phones that could have what, instant messaging. And then we moved to what, mobile phone that could have what, music. And then now we move to what, a screenless what, mobile phone with no longer need a keypad. And now we just keep moving and moving different shapes whatsoever. So the innovation is going on whatsoever. When the keypad left, people complain, how am I going to type? But now give people a keypad and they're not gonna give people an old BlackBerry they used to enjoy. They are not going to use it. You understand me? So how do we educate people with these innovations and how to prepare them in the same vein, like around that same area of, you know, with VC and AI and whatsoever? Those of us who are in this space, both in the technical space and like yourself, who has an engineering background and who is also working in VC, how to be able to successfully educate people, both the people who have been in it for a long time and people who are yet to come in. My main focus, all right, for me as someone who is in the tech space, right, is how to demystify these concepts that are being bombarded at us, the chat GPT, the Gen AI, and all that. Because when we look at the evolution of technology, we see how we started, right? We see how we started from um, mobile phones that had less of capability. We used to play Snake. I don't know about you, but I remember when I used to play Snake on Nokia 33 on Nokia 1100. Then we moved to BlackBerry, iMessaging, and all that kind of stuff. Then the next thing we see, we have what, music on our phones, and now we have a whole device that can do so much more. And it has evolved. Sorry, so I believe it is very important for us in this space, like yourself, who has an engineering background. Those of us who are working in the tech space, who have a background in engineering or who has a background in AI whatsoever, to demystify these concepts and try and calm the fears, even if some jobs are going to be lost whatsoever. How do we prepare the next, batch of people, to prepare for the next evolution, or to prepare for how the market is going to evolve? You understand me? So it's very, very important for us to get into these concepts and prepare people to have a better understanding of that. And since you're on the AI space, I think we should stay here a little bit, just delve a little bit into this AI space. Yeah.
Just like Raymond said, I mean, there are lots of companies that provide services, right, or have built their whole organization or their whole business around a particular service that they provide, right? But right now, you have AI almost doing everything. I mean, yesterday, I read an article on BBC where there's this famous author, and she had her book published on, um, is it Amazon? And without having any idea that she herself has a book published on Amazon, the book was written by AI, right? So yeah, it's such an interesting time, and I think it's something that a lot of people think about. So if you are a business, right, that you have everything built around a particular service, and sort of you have AI disrupting every environment right now, every ecosystem right now, you have AI disrupting it. How will you, as a traditional company, leverage AI, or how should you leverage AI to increase your attractiveness? Because I think now almost everybody is looking at AI. So how do you leverage AI rather than run away from it?
Of course, and I think like that's a very very cool and interesting like time we're living right now, and it's super cool to live it. And I think like I'll first start saying like instead of saying like everyone needs to start learning, everyone
Mhm.
should start like getting into the
All
like the
right.
system or start learning what's happening. I would call it you should start investing in upskilling, yourself, and start thinking about like you have an existing workforce or you're trying to understand and work alongside AI, right? But you need to start equipping like those
Mhm.
traditional companies with, I mean, information, right? Because those employees will need to have, let's call it like AI literacy, when you ensure that harmony like between like human intelligence and like AI like intelligence, right? I think like that's the first step of saying like
Mm,
you need to start thinking about like an investment of skilling your workforce. And also talking about like
right,
an engineering background, and I think that this is important. We talk always about like process optimization, like how we automate things, how you make things better. And before AI, we start deploying and using like those kind of like insights or data driven decisions using other kind of technology, right? The data we have or the technology we have available. But today we have AI, and we can start automating those processes using AI automation, right? And it can actually revolutionize like the efficiency from a bunch of different industries, like from supply chain management, quality control, um, streamline processes, like reduce errors at the end. Like you can boost your productivity like using AI, right? And I think this is key right now. And being as an engineer, if you want to process and you want to like spend your time thinking and reducing like operating stuff, you might like work alongside AI to do those things, right? And the third one I would say is data driven decisions. Like right now, like traditional tech companies can harness on AI to process like a ton of amount of data, right? And I think like these directional like actions can actually create insights or guide you to take those strategic decisions, right? And if you're like a traditional company where you're using a lot of like different like let's call it
right,
resources or partnerships, or to take data driven decisions, right now you can create your whole like data AI team to create those like decision making or empower like that data behind a human intelligence who's actually creating that model, right? So at the end, I'm thinking more like this is not like we're gonna eliminate your job. This is more like how can we work alongside like each other to bring that
right.
up, you know?
Awesome, awesome. So what are the pros, right, and cons? I mean, taking everything into consideration. Um, I mean, right now we have AI, we have disruptive technologies disrupting the business world, and not necessarily the tech world, right? So for you as a, let's say I have a business, right? How or what are the pros and cons of pursuing VC funding? What are the pros and cons of me coming to you as compared to going to someone like an angel investor? Once I have my business, being AI or not, what are the pros and cons?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think like there's something very important when a VC enter an emerging market, and I would say first will be like a knowledge transfer, where actually VCs not only brings capital, but they're also bringing mentorship. They're also bringing skill sets, from developed markets. So at the end, if you think about it as a partnership, it's like though that pro like a good thing to do is like they're actually bringing like strategies like ways to solve problems to those emerging markets. But at the end, it's a tailor, like you need to team up with that entrepreneur because he's the one who knows the local market. He's the ones who know what's happening inside the market. And I think that's a very like important like factor when you're like selecting or not like a BC. The other one, let me think about it. Like a bad criteria, why not, or why not to choose a BC? And I think like there's a misconception also in the startup world. Like not everyone, but like startup may like they might think like BC is the only way to find like capital, or to find like access to investment. And I think that's a very important topic to discuss because BC is just one portion of the whole ecosystem, right? Or even your business might not need a BC, right? It might not be your very partner for the moment. And I think that this is, I don't know if you heard that before, but entrepreneurs might think like, yeah, I might look for capital for BC, or have you ever asked like which BC you want to have in your cap table? And I think that's the other part of it is there's a lot of BCs with a lot of different theses. They have like different skill sets. They have different teams. What they can offer you too, and this is also like a misconception of about I'm gonna find capital, but which kind of capital? Well, which kind of VC? What needs do you have? Do you want to team up with someone who give you like skill set apart from money? Because at the end, like yeah, you're gonna have the capital, But what else? What's next? You want to team up with someone who give you a skill set on a specific topic, or a workforce, or mentoring, or you just need the money. And if you just need the money, there's multiple ways to find that money instead of busy capital, right?
Awesome. I think this brings me to a question that I would like to ask. How what do you look at, right, as a VC? What do you look at when a startup comes to you and requests for funding?
Yeah, I think like it is like a join of different, let's say, uh, initiatives. But I think like before going technical and saying like, yeah, this is what should happen, I think there's like a practical advice for, okay, what this is what you should be doing in order to start looking, for those like relations. And I think like first, you need to start being a doer. And this is like a funny word, but what I mean is you need to start like turning your idea into action, right? And don't wait until the perfect moment, the perfect time, because we tend to do that. We're like, yeah, once I have this, I will do it. Once I am this age, I will do it. Once I'm doing this partnership, I'll start doing things. And I think like don't look to others to validate that idea. Just start looking to yourself and remember like those biggest barriers like are not structural, or yeah, this is super hard, or no, I gonna enter this market. Is you have to work on that mental and emotional like strengthness. And then I would say like you need to have a deep market, like comprehensive of, this is going to be your foundation at the end. Like you need to have a deep market understanding. You need to understand the local pain points, consumer behaviors, industry trends on that specific market. Because if not, that will be like one of the first things they will ask to you, like what's happening there, right? Show me like you understand the needs of your clients, of your customers. And once we have that, we can go like very specific. And there's something that is called like due diligence. And what that looks like is, so a BC will start getting super deep into what's happening inside your business. So we can try to develop it more like one by one, and we start talking about each other. And there's gonna be an initial screening of that like market analysis. They're gonna target, and they're gonna see that market. It's big, like market size, like growth potential, competition, that unique value proposition, and that's where it starts to get tricky, right? How I'm different, again, like other tech companies around there, right? Why my technology is unique, right? And here started like that product service evaluation, where yeah, like show me why you're unique. Yeah, show me your potential. You're solving a real problem. It is actually scalable. It is not. And once you validate that like product service in that market, they start getting into the financials. So they're gonna start saying like, okay, like show me those projections, those burn rates, how your cash is being generated, your financial health, like what's your projections for growth, and it comes attached with that. Okay, generating revenue, like how your pricing strategy, what are your plans for monetization, like your business idea, and it starts to get very challenging, because if you're starting, it's like, oh my god, that's a lot of questions, right? uh, and that's the beauty of like being an entrepreneur. And I'll leave it there until there's a bunch more, but to continue. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how you're experiencing like feeling that way when you're in early stage a startup and entrepreneur, and there's a lot happening.
Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine. So I haven't been an entrepreneur before. I don't know about Markley. Maybe he has a business that I don't know about. But yeah, he's a brilliant guy. So I know he probably has done something before. But I have had to, start some small stuff in my life, and I've had to reach out to maybe my dad or something, or someone. And the questioning, when you're trying to get someone else's money involved in what you are doing, it can be, it can be quite
Challenging.
rigorous and challenging. But then you realize that the person is looking out for their interests as well as yours. So it makes perfect sense. Indeed, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and yeah, okay, sorry.
Oh, no, but Boris, you can go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like yes, and it's this is the challenging part, right? Because being an entrepreneur is actually very challenging. Like it's not only like, yeah, I'm gonna have an idea, and this is I want to transform the world, and this is what I'm gonna do. But then you need to be, and the what I was saying before, you need to be a doer. It's like, okay, bring your idea into action, and that here's where it gets tricky, right? And it's like, okay, how I'm gonna create a business model? Okay, I'm gonna create the financial thing behind it. I'm gonna create a market. Why is inside that market? Why that problem? Yeah. Why I'm solving this and not the other one? Yeah. Why am I unique? And it start like, but that's also the beauty of it, right? Because you're being innovative, you're being resilient, you're being adaptive to change, and I think that's awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, the talk of, I mean, this all these VC jargons and talking of startups, the startup world, just I think tunes my mind to this show Shark Tank. Um, it's been running for 14 seasons, right? So that means that it's something that well brings a lot of views and helps a lot of people. So since it's been running for such a long time, I guess it's something that contributes to the startup world and then the startup ecosystem, helping businesses boom. I mean, there are a lot of success stories and all that. Also, not so like not a good lot of success stories too. If you take a look at something like Ring Video Doorbell, he went on Shark Tank and I mean he didn't get the funding that he was looking for. So, putting all this into consideration, how effectively do you think venture capital contributes to the economic growth?
So yeah, so this is a very interesting question because at the end, like venture capital actually it's a catalyst for that economic growth, right? And I will give you a couple examples on how and why. And I think like one of the main it's actually job creation. Like startups are engines of job creation. Like these companies scale, they hire talent, they're forcing employment opportunities with local communities, and at the end, this job creation extends across of different sectors, contributes to a more complex and robust like labor market. Right? You're developing skill sets to start working on different like type of industries and projects. And this comes alongside the tech, for example. You can work on a different industries in industries being a techie, right? I think the other one would be economic resilience, and a well-developed like startup ecosystem will help the economy to diversify and become more resilient over time when you're not dependent on specific or traditional industries if you think about it. Because if you go on a downturn, economic downturn, you're gonna reduce that over reliance like on specific industries. Third one, I'm thinking it's you're actually attracting a foreign investment due to those startups, and this is actually something that is happening. I don't know if you've seen like those like crazy huge U.S. or European VC funds or private equities that are entering into emerging markets. This is now a reality, right? This is now happening, and before it might like this is crazy that this company or this fund is actually investing in an emerging market, and this like global collaboration like injects that capital of course but also expertise into that local economy, right? And this is great. And I think finally like that push like that economic growth will be like it will give us a sense of like competitive advantage, because if you think about like how venture capital enter like different cultural or emerging markets, they will need to like create that sort of like adaptation, let's say. And driven by like venture funding, like you must like innovate to complete to a global scale, right? So if a VC fund is entering an emerging market, you must start thinking global instead of thinking local, right? Because and that like VC or entry will give you that like entry to start fighting on a global scale. This is also very awesome because like entrepreneurs right or not right now, but like before entering into this like crazy world, you might create your company or your startup to start operating local, right? I don't know, you ever thought like right now your business could be here and in another continent or in 10 countries that before, yeah, this is unimaginable.
Like literally, just like the Tech Stuff podcast, we are based here in the UK, but then we get a chance to interview people like yourself in the US and everything. So we're not business here, but yeah,
Exactly.
we're just trying to see. Yeah.
But this is crazy. I mean, if you think about it, like right now, like this bringing that this global scale through technology, through innovation, you can make things happen on a global scale.
Mm.
And before, this was crazy. I mean, if you create your business or you're from a small town, You're creating something interesting just for your local like needs and interest. But now you can bring that business to the local, or not the local, but the global needs or interesting of a, or solving a problem of a whole
Mm,
continent, right?
mm,
And I think like here's where I love to bring that like introduction to, you have to stop thinking local in this world where
mm,
technology and there's a lot of resources, and not like not only economical but also educational, informative, you have to stop thinking local and you start thinking like global, like from the
mm.
beginning. Like
Right.
if you're gonna start business tomorrow, start thinking like how I'm gonna make my business profitable and invaluable in my country or in my town, but also in another country,
Right.
in another location,
Right.
and this is super super interesting.
Right, right. I like that. So I know we've spoken a lot about a lot of things, VC, startups, and all that kind of stuff. Now I want you as a person, right? Can you tell me some of your best investments you've made, maybe in the VC space or a personal, maybe like a personal project you're working like in a VC? Just tell us, one of the best you've seen, or one of the best investment decisions you think you've made. And it may be classified information, so you don't have to share it with the world, but just tell us what
Yeah,
industry was it and why did you find it to be very interesting? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's a very good question, and I think like before answering like with the specifics or changing names or whatever, I will say like before you know what's like a good or bad investment, or to know like if you're better or not against other, you need to start comparing against something. So
Oh,
so
okay.
first you need to start saying, okay, if this is good against what? So this is where you need to start finding some sort of
Mm,
benchmarks, right? And these benchmarks
okay.
will help you to actually say, I'm actually above or below average return, or is this actually changing or not, like the local economy? And this is like, before giving you the example, is like you're gonna have like two kind of benchmark, right? Like the numerical one, the quantitative one, where it says you're a below average or you're above average, you're outperforming or you're not performing very well. But
Mm,
there's the other
mm,
one that says, oh, you're actually doing social impact, And this is another concept. It's like,
mm,
oh, you're actually impacting like we just talked, like the BC is actually changing the life of thousands of people in that location. You're creating jobs, and this is another way to measure like it was a good or not or a bad investment, right?
right, right,
You can compare it with like the financial return, and then you can compare
right,
like
right.
the impact
The social.
on the entrepreneur, on the location, or on the economy they're working on.
Right, right.
And to give like an example, I would say like as I shared before, like what BC look like, and on me personally, what I like the most is like deep understanding on the market. I think when an entrepreneur or a team like loves what they're doing and solves something they're passionate about, is where like
Mm,
you can see like every time they pitch you or they present you your idea,
mm,
they actually know what's happening. They've been
right,
there or they've been solving this for years, and they found something innovative or very creative to solve it. You know,
right,
and when I'm saying like a good or bad investment, I think like of course I cannot disclose like a lot of information, but I would say like I
right,
think that's the way I measure like that success, right?
right.
And also it'll depend. I was telling you like every startup will find the perfect like investor, right? And me personally, I
Mm,
love to invest in companies that have like some sort of purpose, right? And what does that mean is like you're changing your local community, right? Or you're an
mm,
amazing entrepreneur with a great personality with a great product, but that needs a little bit of mentorship or help or to
mm,
get there.
mm.
So and I think like that answer will change person to person, and I think like everyone will have a different like investment thesis or a way to approach that investor or that entrepreneur. But yeah, I think like that's like a question, an answer to that.
Right. Well, I'm sure you're always talking with businesses and you're probably hearing a lot of people pitching a lot of ideas so you here and there. What do you do to wind down? What do you do in your leisure time? What is Boris's free time like? What is your leisure time, your hobbies? What do you do? What do you like to do?
Yeah, I think like of course one of my passions is definitely like startup world and investing, and I think that's like 80 or 70% of time. But of course, I love and enjoy like being international. I think that gave us like that sense of love to also multicultural experience, like diversity, traveling, and I think that makes part of my life too. You know, like just the chance that we met in another like location and being from other countries. You know, that also
Right.
make part of like what makes me also happy, and it's like meeting new people. You know, having new friends from all different locations around the world. And yeah, personal skills, like what I love the most, I love music. I mean, for instance, France, I'm a DJ too, so I'm enjoying my time like into music, also sports. I'm sportive. I'm really sportive. I think I play every sport, but the one I love the most is soccer. And now I'm learning how to play golf. That's my new like hobby.
Ah, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's a cliche that the golf sport is for the elite. Is that why you're probably going into to meet more elite people, potential people in the VC space?
I would say like it makes part of it, but it's actually fun. I mean, once I started, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just try it just to see how it goes. It ended up being really fun. Like, and if you're doing with your friends, like who's also like starting from the beginning, it makes it funnier. But yeah, I mean, I think like golf is something you. It's not like you should know, but it helps to develop like relationships. And at the end, like if you, it's not only about VC or investing or in life, you need to start like creating that trust or creating that relationship building, you know, making stronger your network. And at the end, you have to do it by just going to those kind of places, you know. It doesn't have
Right.
to be like the golf course, but you need to start creating those like networks and professional like interactions, building that a strong network. And I think like uh, if you like bring it to the tech ecosystem, like you need to go to industry events, right? And that's the other thing I like the most, like meeting new people. Is like
Mm,
you need to start going to those events. You need to start engaging with people like you admire, right? Advisors or
right.
people you think is great for your life, and you're gonna start creating those potential interactions that for tomorrow will impact you somehow. It doesn't have to be related to business, also to life, you know, good friends that could also like become your partners tomorrow, or just like friends for your life that will support you emotionally and you know during your process. And I think that's key,
Right.
you know.
Right. Okay. So, finally, we are the end of today's episode, and I think, for someone who has heard these things a lot, VC, 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 and having you come on board to, demystify a lot of the things, and try, make it more understandable for both people, especially for people in the tech space who are trying to, navigate this, AI saturated space, but still, keep innovation at the forefront of what they want to do. Um, for you as a VC, all right, and who also loves technology, what are some of the anticipation you have about the VC landscape in a few years in the emerging markets, maybe for the next 5, 10 years? What do you think VC is going to look like if we just project, looking at how technology is running, looking at how innovation is happening? Let's just make a few projections. So that maybe in 5 years, 10 years, we'll come back and look at this, listen to this episode. We're like, you know what? Maybe Boris was the prophet after all, But yeah, yeah. Let's. So tell me what kind of projections do you have in terms of what
Yeah.
VC will look like?
This is definitely a big one, but let's try to develop it a little bit. And I
Right.
think like first of all, there's going to be an increase in investors that will be attracted for emerging markets because they will recognize, because it's actually happening. Like today, like if you go and see like African or East Asia or South American companies that are now leveraging like capital, they're actually growing incredible globally and global scale. And they're recognizing that potential for high returns, but also that brings social impact, right? And I think that
Mm,
that's key for the future,
mm,
as what's happening right now, right? Second thing I'll think about it's like emerging markets will be incubators for localized, like for example, tech solutions, you know, because they're
mm,
going to address unique challenge, and those investors will seek those startups that leverage technology to solve those real problems, right?
right.
And that's also happening right now, but in the future will be intensified. Like you're gonna have investors who are gonna say, yeah, we still want to create that economic growth. We still want to create that job creation, but we also want to create that societal like well-being, right? We want to transform life
Mm,
peoples,
mm, mm,
and
mm,
that's also like something you start being like you start looking at it, but I think will be more intense like in the future.
mm, mm,
And another thing I'm thinking about is global collaboration. I think like as we were discussing, like it was unthinkable like before working on a global scale, but today it's I want to say easier, but it's very easy to cross border collaboration. And
mm,
investor startups like will start leveraging international networks for funding, mentorship, expansion. And this is gonna happen at the end because you're gonna have access to information, and guys, but I know Raymond is in the UK, but McLean, I don't know where you're at, but
Yeah, he's also in the UK. He's in Leeds. He's
but
right up.
this is a
Yeah.
perfect example of global collaboration. Like I'm in New York, you guys are on the other side of the world, but still we're collaborating, leveraging our networks, but for a specific purpose. And this is gonna be like very common on the startup world, in the
Mm,
companies. Like these emerging markets will become like integral, like key players in that global tech ecosystem. We're gonna have
right.
great talent, we're gonna have great companies, and those like global interactions will happen a lot.
Right.
And I think
Right.
they're happening, but I think they will like be very intensified and accessible for
Right.
everyone.
Right. Right. Right.
And the last two, I think, very, very important. And I think what this was one of my clean question, and it was government support, right?
Right.
And I think like governments will play an active role on nurturing like the tech ecosystem or the startup ecosystem through policies, like encouraging innovation. Like they're gonna make
Mm,
like companies to like go to that path more easily. Like they're gonna give incentivizing like investment, provide necessary infrastructure. Like if you like right now, for example, give a Colombian example, they create a sandbox where you can like
mm.
start some sort of like making your startup have like all license needed to become like a real company
Oh
to prove
wow.
they work or not, and this is like unique, and this is but this is not happening because of like, yeah, because we're doing great. It's because government is giving that support and
Mm,
incentivize that like entrepreneur world, and this is going to be a key player too. Like government they're starting to see like startups and companies and innovation is key important for economic growth too, and they're going to start investing in those too. And finally, and what I was saying like before is like education and talent development, I think will be one of the most important, and it brings together AI and it brings together being innovative. And I think like investment will flow into these educational technology like platforms, universities, entities that will bring like those initiatives to foster like that talent, you know
right.
specifically in the tech space. You're gonna have like a skilled like workforce that will be like specifically like sustaining that tech ecosystem growth, right? And this is
Right.
only happening if the education system start including in every program about technology, about entrepreneurship,
Mm,
about
mm,
economic growth. So from early
right.
stages of your career, even though you're a doctor, even though you're, I mean, any background you have, governments and educational entities will start bringing you a skill set. Two, I don't know, that will be the future, but you will have to learn what's AI for, right? Even though you're in any background, you need to know how to. I don't know. You do have to program, or be a coder, but you need to know, understand, and structure. You might need to
Mm,
know how to optimize process. You might need to know how to
mm,
create a business model. And
mm,
even though you don't do it, you have to some sort of like create that skill set, because for tomorrow, like labor, and workforce, they're gonna require it as a minimum, right? Like I'm
mm,
pretty sure, like if you apply to any job today, you might need to know Excel, and Excel has been for 20 years around. I don't know.
right. Right.
And this is for next generation too. It's like what you guys know about AI, and this is gonna be like, what's AI? I mean, what do you mean? You
Mm,
should be here right now,
right.
right?
Right.
And I
Right.
think like that's for the next decade. Like they're gonna be but this is gonna be very beautiful at the end if you think about it.
Yeah.
Everyone is developing a very crazy skill set of different like industries and capabilities
Right.
that can be applied to multiple like industries, jobs, positions, or being an entrepreneur
Right.
itself, right?
Right. Right. I really like that. I really like how you ended that, reminding us of how diverse skill sets are going to be somewhat needed here and there in different industries, and all of us, whether you are in medicine, whether you are in law, whether you are in even in tech, you should still, prepare yourself with, information about entrepreneurship, AI, because not everyone in tech necessarily knows so much about AI. So knowing these tools, I actually like how you created that similarity with Excel, because that is very, very true. No matter how good you are on a technical basis, Excel is like a non-negotiable. You need to
Exactly.
do it regardless of the industry. All right, Boris, thank you so so much. You actually make me feel like I want to start a business tomorrow or maybe today, and just call you and say, Boris, I have an idea. But then I know that I'm going to have you ask me a lot of questions, because we need to have a viable business. But this has been very helpful, and I believe it's going to be helpful for beginners or young people, especially in the emerging markets, which is our target, to have a better understanding of where they stand in this tech innovation and this aspect of funding of ideas to propel them. So thank you so much for coming. We really really enjoyed time, and thank you, McLean, for being the able co-host that you are. I really enjoyed doing this with you.
Oh, thank you guys. I think like last thing I want to say is be resilient. Like rejection is part of the process. Don't be scared of rejection. Like stay resilient in the face of the setbacks and use that feedback to improve yourself. In life, in business, in whatever you guys doing. But every no will get you to the right person, to the right investor, to
Right.
the right solution, to the right whatever you guys doing, and never give up. And don't forget, like you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna be different, you're gonna have challenges, but this is part of the process. And I think like it is what makes it like different and beautiful too. So thank you,
Right.
McLean, thank you, Raymond. It was a great time, and talk to you guys soon.
That's a mic drop. I have nothing else to add. He just ended it perfectly. Thank you so much, Boris. It is not far fetched to conclude that the benefits of venture capital cannot be underestimated, since it goes beyond just financial support to potentially changing the livelihood of people and improving industries. In addition to VC enabling emerging economies to compete on the global stage through innovation to pave the way for a brighter future, it also serves as a form of mentorship for new entrepreneurs. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the TechStep Podcast. See you in the next episode.